and welcome to episode 12 of the Backstage Knits podcast. My name is Catherine, and you can find me on Ravelry as Backstage Cat Knits, and I'm also on Instagram as Backstage Cath. Welcome to my apartment in lovely Hartford, Connecticut. I'm happy to have you here today. Today is Thursday, June 16th, 2016. I might upload this tonight. We'll see how cooperative YouTube is, so it might be that day or shortly the day after when you actually watch it. This is a knitting podcast, primarily, and really all the time, except when I ramble about other things like theater and insurance and the WNBA and my life. So, happy to have you here today. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you for returning. And if you're new, well, I hope you like me and stick around. Alright, let's get started. I have no finished objects this week, and I've got several whips I'll talk about, but it might be kind of a short episode, but that's okay. So, like I said, no finished objects. I don't even have any half objects, but I do have a project. No, I showed these last time. So I guess I'll just dive right into whips. So the first project, which you saw last time, is my watermelon, what I'm calling my watermelon waffle socks. So this is the Blueberry Waffle pattern by Sandy Turner. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I've knit it before, actually. And so last week I was here, and as you can see, I knit a lot on these. I got both the heels done. I chose to do a fish lips kiss heel. This is, I think, my first time doing a true fish lips kiss heel. I think I did a similar one on another pair of socks, but this is the first time actually following the pattern myself. And I'm using 68 stitches around, except on the heel. She has some modifications in the pattern about how you can expand it a little bit, and so I actually increased so there are 68 stitches around. That's 34 stitches on each needle. So when I did the heel, I increased 4 stitches on the heel stitch. So 72 stitches total, but 38 on the heel. And so that just makes it a little bit wider and deeper. She said that was good in the pattern if you have, if sometimes the socks are kind of hard to fit over like the arch of your foot where your foot meets your ankle. And that's why I've enjoyed the heel flap and gusset in the past, is because you do kind of widen that area a little bit. So as you've heard me say, if you've watched me before, I've kind of big feet, not long, but big. So I did that little modification, and they fit pretty well. I did do what she did in the pattern and like trace my foot with the cardboard, but I probably could have done like even one less full repeat, maybe 2 less rows. They're a little bit long, as I've tried them on so far. This is actually my first time doing toe-up socks, and it's my first time doing 2 at a time, and I'm finding I'm really liking both those things. I definitely like toe-up because I feel like the end is more in sight on toe-up socks. I found like when I knit top-down, which is every other pair of socks that I've done, is you start knitting and you're like, how long do I go before I do the heel? And you get to the heel and you're like, yeah, I'm almost done, but I mean you're not, because you still have the entire foot to knit. So I do like the pattern, or the method of knitting top up. And I have 2 at a time just because once I'm finished with these, I'm going to be done with 2 socks and I don't need to knit another pair. Sorry, I'm like halfway through a section, so that's why I have needles going both these ways. I messed up on the toe a little bit. I was not really following a pattern, and I did the toe before I measured my foot, so the toe isn't long enough, really. So I think they'll fit fine once I get them and block them, and it'll all work out all right. Or I could always gift them to someone who has bigger feet, although I don't want to gift them because of the yarn. So this yarn is June Price Fiber Arts. I have lost the tag. That's sad. It's probably in my other bag where these were before. June Price Fiber Arts. This was her double strand sock. I believe it's 60% wool, 30% nylon, and 10% bamboo. My first time knitting with bamboo, so hopefully it makes the socks stronger. Right now I'm in a bit of a dilemma about what to do with these socks. So I bought this yarn because it is watermelon, as you can kind of see. It starts with a very dark pink and it's getting lighter and will eventually go into a very light green and a darker green. And I really want the socks to go through that entire gradient. But the problem is these were 50 gram skeins each. I think there's 39 grams in here. So I still have so much left of the skein. I'm not really sure, do I like do increases and go like they're gonna be knee-high socks. I'm also considering just like cutting this next section out and going right into the green, because honestly, like, the socks that I've made so far, this is about how long they've been. I haven't done a very high cuff, so I'm actually thinking I might just cut the yarn in a similar place in each skein, and then that way I can have the colors and the full watermelon effect, but not have to spend another multiple long time doing socks. So I'm leaning towards that's what's going to happen. I'll probably knit through both these things, have some yarn barf right now. So I'll probably knit kind of through the end of that and get to a sort of even place, and then rip out a good section of each of them to get through the end, to skip through the end of the pink and get into the green, and I'll do the ribbing. So there's like a very light transition color here. It's going to be hard to pick up on my camera. There's a very light like yellow transition color here, and then it goes into a neon light green and then a dark green, and I'll probably start the ribbing a little bit into this neon green, and then just do as much ribbing as I can to get into the neon green and the dark green, or I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along. We'll see how that goes. So it'll be a little bit of an adventure, but my goal at the end of the day is to have watermelon socks. I just want to say, and I've been talking for 10 minutes about these pairs of socks. All last week, this is all I knit on. I didn't really do anything else. So, yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, I'm so impressed with the gradient. It's so subtle. Like, you can tell that this is, especially now that I'm up here, that this is darker than here, but it's just such a subtle gradient that it's getting washed out that close to my camera, but that I really, really like it. So I really like the yarn. I kind of wish, like, that there was less in each skein so I could just get to the end quicker, and I don't know that I'm really comfortable with, like, calf increases yet. I don't know that I'm there, so we'll see. Maybe next time these will be finished. Okay. 10 minutes later, talking about these socks. Sorry about that. I'm really enjoying knitting these. I love the blueberry waffle pattern. So I guess it's justified, because really, all last week that's what I knit on. Okay. Pause for effect while this bag fell on the floor. Alright. I'm going to show you this next because you've seen it before. Sorry. This is making me realize that I have an acquisition that I want to bring over, and actually 2 of them. So I'm going to stop, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I realized I forgot to tell you, like, things that are important about this. I'm knitting these socks on Haya Sharps, US 1 2.25 millimeters. First time using Haya Sharps to make socks. I really like them. They're so light, and they zing along, and I found them to be a little bit pokey, but it hasn't really bothered me too much. Like, they're definitely pokey, but I like them. So, sorry, I'm a little bit rambly today. the past couple ones I've done in the afternoons, and I keep saying like, oh, I'm so rambling when I do it at the afternoon, but it actually really works well on my schedule, especially because I never really know these days like what my weekend plans are. So it just works to like get home from work and do stuff, but apparently after working all day, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so tired and rambling. So anyway, okay, next word, whip. Warp? Yes. Don't try to say work in progress and whip at the same time because you'll get warp. Anyway, you've seen this before. This is the Dancing shawl by Justina LaProsta. I am knitting this in 2 colors of Malabrigo sock. I've got 2 skeins of this color, which is a very dark gray with kind of purpley undertones. This is the eggplant colorway. And then, is this attached? No, it's not. But I have 1 skein of this, which is Archangel, which is blues, but not blues. There are no blues in this skein. Purples and oranges, a little bit of kind of like light brown in there as it transitions. So, really pretty. Last time I showed you this, I was just beginning. I sort of had to guesstimate based on, I didn't put a stitch marker in, but I was about there last time, so not much. So I've gone through and I've done 3 of the pebble rows. It's a little bit hard to see here, but you kind of go through and you do this short row with these little short row pebbles. And then you've got, 5 rows in between, or some number of rows in between. And it's got this kind of interesting construction shape. The way with the increases and decreases is a little bit new and unique and not something I've done before. I don't want to really give it away because it's a paid-for pattern, but apparently it will change midway through, so that will be interesting. And there's going to be so many ends to weave in, though. I'll have to do some as I go along. So I'm really liking this. There's not a huge contrast in some spots between, like, you can kind of see here the pebble row gets lost a little bit. I probably should have chosen a lighter color for the main body of the shawl, but I think as it gets bigger and goes along and you kind of see the full spectrum of the color in the row every single time, it will start to pop out a little bit. And I actually don't mind a little bit of subtle patterning and subtle striping, so I think it'll be good. I'm knitting these on US 6 4mm needles, and these are just boy needles. The pattern calls for 5s, and in every shawl pattern I've been knitting lately, I've just been going up a size because I'm such a tight knitter, and I found that it doesn't really impact my yardage too much. So my standard is just go up a size from whatever they told me to do, and these were the only metal US 6s I had. Didn't feel like ordering another one. For my birthday, which was Monday, I actually asked for a metal interchangeable set. So I, of course, forgot to send my mom the link, so it's not here yet, but hopefully it will be here soon if my parents decide to get it for me, which would have been nice of them. And if not, I'll probably order my own. But anyway, didn't want to wait to order online needles knowing that I was going to hopefully at one point buy an interchangeable set. I had these, so I'll transition to a longer cable at some point. But there's that. This has been taking a back seat this week. Yeah. Last week I worked primarily on the socks, and this week it's taken both the socks. Oh, let me put the pattern back in the bag. Last week both the socks and the shawl have taken a back seat to another shawl that I'm doing. So, if you've watched my podcast, you've heard me talk about Sarah of the Nitty, Nerdy, and Natural podcast. I've been watching her podcast pretty much as long as she's been doing it last summer. And she had designed a shawl, or made a shawl she designed. I think she finished her shawl a couple months ago. And finished up and wrote up the pattern. So I'm test knitting it for her. Her shawl is called Impasto, which is apparently a painting technique that Van Gogh used. Definitely check out her podcast. She talks about it in a lot of episodes. I think the most recent one she mentions it, if not definitely the one before that. And so impasto is a painting technique, apparently, that Van Gogh used, and her inspiration for the shawl was some hand-spun called Starry Night, obviously famous painting by Van Gogh. So this is a test knit for her, but I'm sure the pattern will be on Ravelry eventually if you like what you see. I am knitting this out of 2 yarns both of which I got at the Connecticut Sheep and Wool Festival. So you've seen these both recently. The first one is actually from a dyer who works at a local yarn store in Connecticut at it's in Country Yarns in like Waterbury, Woodbridge, Watertown, I think. I've never been to the yarn store, but they were at this convention. And so it's Zephyr Designs. And I really like the yarn. This label drives me crazy because it's not all in one direction. Wallingford. Country Yarns in Wallingford. There are lots of W towns in Connecticut, okay? Yeah. So anyway, this is the Super Sheep Fingering in the colorway Snowflake Agate. It's 100% superwash merino, and there's 450 yards in the skein. So this colorway is just a natural colorway with generous amounts of black speckles. Cool. And I'm pairing it with yarn from Fat Cat Knits, her Super Sock base, which is also 100% superwash merino. There's about 400 yards in this skein, in a 100 gram skein, and the colorway is Boogaloo. Come on, focus. There you go. And this is a really awesome dark neon rainbow. So the way the skein was it was kind of, I'm going to see if I can try to get like the full spectrum of it here. So the skein came kind of folded in half, and with like blacks at the top, and then into teals and greens, and then into like a dark purple. So this one doesn't have a lot of pink in it, but you know, depending on the portion of the section you see, it goes through the whole spectrum of the rainbow. And so, you know, I bought this, and then the next place we went pretty much was Country Yarns booth, and they had this. And so I really like this on its own, and I just was like, wait a second, I just bought a yarn that went together. And when I went to the Connecticut Sheep and Wool Festival, it was just after Sarah had finished her shawl and had talked about wanting test knitters, and I literally thought, man, like, these would look cool in that shawl that Sarah designed, because it's kind of like a stripy, it was designed for hand spun, which I obviously don't, I mean, I have some hand spun, but it's like bulky worsted weight, so it wouldn't work. But anyway, so I think they look really cool together. Like, this is not really a neutral. Sarah's is black, and then her Starry Night bat. So this is a little bit on its own kind of interesting, but I thought they would look pretty cool together. Well, let's see how they look together in the shawl. So I'm knitting this shawl on US 6 needles. Sarah, the pattern called for 5. I really want to do an accurate test knit, but I just know that I will have a very small shawl if I use 5. So US 6, these are my carbons needles. And I started this on Tuesday night. So this is 3 days of knitting. Here we go. So I'm really enjoying this test knit a lot, and I'm really liking how the colors work together. There's a lot going on, for sure, but I think it will be good. I don't want to really kind of give away the pattern because I don't know if she's planning to make it paid or free, but I did mess up a little bit on this side, and I'm sorry, Sarah, but I'm not going to rip it out. There's a couple of rows here where the pattern is reversed over what you're supposed to do, so, but this side's right. So I'm really excited to see this blocked out, because right now with the way the increases and decreases are, you've got a lot of kind of like texture on the back. It's a little bit hard to see, but can I angle it right? Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see like all those bumpy textures and things. But so I'm really, really excited to see it blocked out. I think it's going to look really, really cool. I'm actually going to be entering this. Well, I'm knitting this as part of 2 knit-alongs. One's an actual entering thing. That's the Summer Colors Cal, which is hosted by 2 podcasts which I watch. The Cherry Pearls podcast, which is Robin and Mary, and Stitching Between Pages podcast, which is also Robin. So I'm going to be entering it into those. The rules for that knit-along are that you use 2 colorways, and that your project's at least 75 grams. So that's going to get me through there. And then I'm also knitting this as part of something I saw on Hey Lady Hey's Instagram page. Melissa Stadja, I've talked about her a couple episodes back as being kind of my inspiration in April for getting projects done. And she is, it's not, I mean, I don't want to say she's hosting it because there's not going to be a specific prize or giveaway period or anything like that, but she's hosting an LGBTQ Solidarity Craft-Along, and if you're in the US and probably around the world, I imagine it would have gotten coverage. The recent shootings in Orlando at the LGBT nightclub, and so she's hosting a Solidarity Craft-Along, and so the point is to make something with rainbows. You know, if you're not aware, the LGBT pride flag is a rainbow, so it just so happened that I kind of saw that at the same time, and this happens to be rainbow skein, but I'm happy to be knitting in solidarity with my LGBTQ friends and sisters and brothers. I go to church, so that sisters and brothers phrase came to my head really quickly, but my LGBTQ friends, and if you are a member of that community and you're watching, I love you, I stand in support of you, and if you're a Muslim watcher, I kind of doubt I have any of those because I don't have many watchers, period, but I stand with you also. Anyway, so that's that. Those are the whips I've been working on. I have 1 square done on my sock blanket, so I'm not even going to bother bringing that out. I'll just talk about that one whenever the next time I show my sock blanket is. I do have, kind of surprisingly, I only have 1 square because I got a lot of minis. My acquisition section is basically minis, but I spent so much time like winding all the minis up that I then was like, just want to work on my socks and get them done. Like, I spent so much time winding minis in the past 2 weeks. But, well, let's just talk about them. I got 2 orders, each with 2 mini sets in them, and I really love all the minis that I got. So the first one is from Tia's Terrific Threads on Etsy, and I'll put her thing too. There's all her contact information. And so these are ones that she dyed herself. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Right, so each set was 4 skeins of 20 grams each. But actually, each of the sets there was 1 color that was the same. So all these are dyed by her. There's no specific colorways, I don't believe. I'm not going to really talk about each of them because I'll kind of go over them. Well, now, so I've got sorry, figure out what I want to do here. This is really nice purple. Yeah, just a variegated purple. There's some really dark, I don't know if it goes to full black there. And then they've got a couple maroon flecks in there. But a really nice purple skein. Or mini. And then you've got this really cool vibrant greens with some purples in there. Focus, please. Well, it's not going to do that. But it goes into a little bit of kind of like a seafoam, darker seafoam green. I don't know. Really nice. There's that. And this is a really pretty pink and teals. And a little bit of browns, almost kind of like a cherry blossom with a little bit of that teal in there. There we go. And then there's a nice bright yellow with some blue, red speckle in there. And then there's just peppermint stripe, kind of. reds with some white pops, and then, you know, a little bit of pinks as it transitions from the red to the white. Then we've got a dark red and purple with some green speckle. A little bit of pops of white as well. And then we got this, actually, I really like this one. Pink, green, and purple. Sorry, my autofocus is not, there we go. So those are those, and like I said, this one's big because there was two, each of the sets had one of that same colorway. So, like I said, she doesn't name her colorways or anything, which is why I kind of wanted to talk about those now. And then I went on to the Ravelry shop Allure. She didn't give me a little card or anything with the order, at least not that I could find again. And so she does a bunch of mini sets, and she has kind of that are not dyed by her. So I got so like she has like a Nitpick Stroll mini set. I forget what other one I just remember the Nitpick Stroll. I forget what other one she's had, but I got one that was just Lorna's Laces, which is this one. And these I'm not going to talk about right now because these actually have colorway names. And what I did was I took a picture of the skein. They all came really nicely labeled with like a label for each specific mini wrapped around the mini. So I actually took pictures of each of the mini skeins next to their label. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually keeping track of all the yarns in my sock blanket in an Excel spreadsheet. Organization, man, because I want to be able to just be like, what is this again? Did I like this yarn? If there's a colorway I like, and I know that some of them are one-of-a-kind colorways like these. Some of the, you know, Etsy shops may be discontinued or on a break, or it was, you know, not a repeatable colorway, but it's still nice to kind of know about different yarn dyers and what have I used before, and what, you know, what can I recommend to other people as a good dyer or a good colorway. So anyway, these have colorway names, so when I put them in my my sock blanket, I'll talk about them specifically. But a really, really good variation of Lorna's Laces. I had not heard of Lorna's Laces prior to purchasing this mini skein set, and I'm really, really pleased with all the colors. I don't know that they're all self-striping, but they're all much more solidly variegated than something like this, if that makes sense. So just really impressed with the color combinations and the consistency of color. I don't know that Lorna's Laces, because I've never heard of them, so I don't know that they're an indie dyer, or I don't really know anything about them. So, but I'm impressed enough with this saying that I might do research into them. And then I got a indie dyer set. So, and these are 10 5-gram minis in both these things. So this is the indie dyers set, and again, each of these came with a label as to who the dyer was, what the fiber content was, and what the colorway name was. So I will talk about these specifically once they're in the blanket, but a really great assortment there. The only thing that I have as not a complaint, but I'm trying to a little bit do some contrast in my blanket between dark and light, and there's not a lot of like really light skeins in here. So obviously got this one, it's pretty light. Ooh, apparently this bag is open. So that's going to be my one constructive criticism. I mean, not a complaint, because they're all beautiful, but I just am looking for some lighter colors to add to my blanket. So there is that. As far as minis, lots of things to add to my blanket. I think I said this last time, but I was originally thinking that I would just, you know, add to my blanket kind of slowly, just as things happened, as I did things, and as I only out of projects of my own. But I started knitting it and kind of really got into it, and now I was like, I need minis for my blanket, and I did the one swap and all that good stuff. So I still think it will take me a long time, but I don't think I will go as slowly as I originally anticipated. So now I have lots of minis to keep me going for a while. I haven't talked about my tea at all. This is Salada decaffeinated green tea, purple antioxidants. This is actually probably really old. It was sitting at my parents' house for a really long time. I don't know where or how you can buy this, but it's good. It's fruity green tea. So, anyway. And this mug is from my grandmother. I think it's from Pottery Barn. No, I don't know what's from. Spode Blue Collection. Sunflower. First introduced 1813. Reproduced from a hand-engraved copper plate. Who knew? My grandmother passed away a couple of years ago, and my grandfather moved out of their condo into his own kind of senior living apartment, and so kind of downsized. So at the same time, I happened to be moving to not this apartment, but the previous one, and so I got all her like dining room set, plates and bowls and things, and so I also got just two of her. I got the set of Pottery Barn mugs that came, but she also had a few of these. So I always think of my grandmother when I drink from this mug. A couple other acquisitions that I want to talk about. I haven't done this in a while, but I have a Yarnbox socks subscription, and so I continue to get those, and I haven't actually really knit any of the yarns I've received from any Yarnbox ever. No, that's totally a lie. I've knit 2 pairs of socks with my Yarnbox socks. Yarnbox socks yarns. Ignore me. So this was, okay, we're in June. This was May's. Oh, what's happening here? Where is the other end? Oh, wow, that's okay. So this is Forbidden Woolery and her Gluttony sock base, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, approximately 435 yards in a 115 gram skein. Oh, it's generous. And this is the colorway Horcrux, which is obviously a Harry Potter reference. Not the world's biggest Harry Potter fan, but come on, focus, please. There we go. Oh no, you're doing so well. There we go. So it's a really pretty kind of muted blues and purples. So a little bit of it's again coming up very dark on here. One day I will figure out how to get better lighting while I'm recording, but there's some pops of like a muted maroon in there as well. I have no plans for this. I actually considered using this in the Impasto, sorry, with another Yarnbox sock skein. It was like a light blue that had some sparkle to it, but I just really like the neon rainbow and the black and white, and I had that project in mind when I bought those things, so I had to go with my original choice. But I really like this. Like, these are my colors. This is my jam. So, and then I have June's. So if you have not gotten your June Yarnbox socks, and you don't want to know what it is, they came 2 weeks ago. So I think at this point I'm allowed to talk about it. But I won't put the time. Give me like 2 minutes and come back. All right. Anyway, so let's do 3 because I can babble. So this is MJ Yarns, hand-dyed in Lafayette, Colorado. This is her Sophista sock base, which is 75% superwash merino, 15% nylon, 10% tencel, approximately 390 yards and 100 grams. And this is the colorway Eye of the Frog. So, okay, what's happening? There we go. MJ's Yarns. And here is the info. And so this is a really nice orange with some red and green specks. I believe when it came in the skein, it was like all orange, and there's just a little bit of kind of the red and green on the side of the skein. So I'm not a huge orange person, so these will definitely be socks because I don't mind wearing orange on my feet, but this will not go into any sort of thing that I'm going to actually wear visibly. Alright, that took less time than I thought. So, my big purchase this week was a ball winder. You might remember from last episode that my ball winder broke. I got a $20 Knitpicks ball winder, and it worked great for me for like a year. But it broke, and so yes. So this is the Stanwood Jumbo, I believe, ball winder, and it came, and I was like, am I insane? Like, why did I spend this much on a ball winder? But I wasn't gonna buy it, but I accidentally clicked the one-click Amazon order. If you have Prime, they have like one-click ordering. And I was like, well, I need a ball winder anyway, like whatever, just let's buy it. And I love it. I love it. It's huge and it's heavy, but I really love it. And so it's got two, like you put your yarn through here first, and then through here. So it really does a good job of like this rotates around. And I'm super happy. Like, I'm really happy with this. But I've actually, like, I like this so much that I've been going through my thing and like caking every yarn that I have. Which, I don't know, people, I think, are people divided on how you should store your yarn? Like, do you store it in a skein or a hank or a cake? But I like caking it up because I like the cleanliness of it also. And so, like, if I'm gonna be caking, like, the thing was I had it out because I wanted to roll up the yarn for the dancing shawl, or the second ball winder, and the Impasto shawl. And I'm like, well, I have it out. Like, plus I'm getting a roommate in 2 weeks who's a crocheter, but I have to do this on my dining room table. And I'm like, the more I can do now means I won't need to, like, randomly just do this whole swift ball winder setup on the dining room table, like, when she's trying to eat dinner. So, there's that. Alright, well, about a quarter of this podcast has been me talking about socks, I've realized. Because I was at 9 minutes when I finished, or almost 10, when I finished talking about the watermelon socks, and now I'm at 40 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed a podcast, a quarter of which is about one project. Life. I saw Anastasia at Hartford Stage. It was really, really good. I think it's pretty much going straight to Broadway. It's a Flaherty and Aaron show. It's based on the 1990s movie. It was an animated movie. It was not a Disney movie, but it was very similar to a Disney movie. People think it's Disney. It's not, though. And they did a really excellent job of taking the movie and kind of keeping a lot of the things that, I mean, I personally really enjoyed the movie, and so the things that I liked about the movie were still in the musical, but they made it much more realistic. So if you've seen the movie, there's the villain character is Rasputin, and he essentially is dead and comes back from the dead, and he has a sarcastic talking bat, i.e. Iago and Aladdin, very similar characters. And so, for this stage show, I guess they wanted to keep it more realistic. It's based off of a true story of the Romanov Empire, and they all got brutally murdered, and then there's this myth and this legend that one of the daughters survived. I don't fully know in the real life. I believe she actually was accepted as Anastasia, but now the DNA evidence is that she was not her. So, but anyway, the musical is very, very good. The one thing is, Hartford Stage has been doing stuff recently. They have like a whole screen in the back, and it's almost like they can do like a TV show. Like, it's not a projector because people stand in front of it, but like it must be just like a TV screen. And I think they tried to get a little too creative with that. Like, there's this whole scene where they were on a train. So they had like a big train set up, and then the screen like behind them, and they would rotate the train, and they would also like rotate the TV image, so like the countryside like was scrolling behind them the way the train was, and it was a little bit dizzying and a little bit like I don't need the screen, like they're clearly on a train, like, so that was like the one part where I was like and I do like they changed the villain around. I don't want to give too much away, but they made the villain, there's still a villain of the piece, but he's a real person, and so they took out one of my favorite songs, which is In the Dark of the Night, which Rasputin sings, you know, in the movie. It's a classic villain song, and I love it. It's great. There's like dancing chorus of like bugs and maggots. It's fantastic. Anyway, they took that song out very clearly. It would not have made sense for this real life guy to talk about your fears are becoming real and Rasputin's awake. Like, it wouldn't have made any sense. So, but they kept that little bit of a melody and they put it in towards one of the songs near the end of Act 1. So, I'm sure all of us in the audience who had seen the movie were like, oh, it's the melody of In the Dark of the Night, but it's not that song. So, that was really nice. And the cast was very, very talented, as they always are at Harvard Stage. I really like, if you're in Connecticut, their season's over now after this weekend with Anastasia finishing, but every show I've seen has just been such a high quality, and there's not a bad seat in the house, and Harvard Stage did great, and I can walk there. So, that's awesome. Like I said, the biggest thing that's happening in my life is I'm getting a roommate. May or may not affect amounts of time I podcast, not that I podcast a lot anyway, or with any sort of regularity. So we'll see what happens. She's a crocheter, but I probably can't convince her to join me, so that's alright. Alright, well, I think that's it. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed watching my podcast. Thank you for spending some time with me. Definitely send me a note on Ravelry or Instagram to say hi. I'd love to hear from you and chat about knitting. I hope that wherever you are, you're having a wonderful day and you enjoy what you're knitting. I'll see you next time. Bye!